possible, but don't, these things are trivial. Maybe they're big in the grand scheme of things, and you know what? If global warming really does exist and it is a problem, there'll be plenty of opportunities to take care of it after we take care of the more immediate financial problems that are staring us right in the face. It's kind of like, like a sort of economic triage. Let's take care of this problem first.
In fact, your painful prescription will actually cut carbon emissions in the short term.
Maybe, who knows? But the one thing I know won't cut carbon emissions is cap and trade. So, and that's what they're proposing as the solution to the whole thing.
Can you talk a little bit about your product you introduced to some extent, right?
About what?
Your company.
My company?
And how it differs from other brokerage firms in the market?
Well, I think the difference is I try to give good advice to my clients. and I understand, economics. I understand how to invest. I'm not, That's why I left, a larger firm when I first got started, because I thought the advice was bad and tainted, and I thought that the individual investor just really had a, was getting taken advantage. And so I started my own firm. The big firms know that this happens. That's why they're in favor of more regulations to make it harder for brokers who are dissatisfied to, to compete with them. But I work with individual investors mostly. I don't deal really with institutions, so I deal with, retail investors. I take very small accounts. I have large accounts as well, but we don't turn down clients who are small. A lot of brokerage firms won't deal with, $10, $20, $50,000 clients. I do. I try not to turn anybody away because I understand, that the stakes are very high. I operate a brokerage firm. I have an asset management firm now, so we manage money. We do investment banking. I help companies raise capital to expand. Mostly, these companies happen to be abroad, although the most recent financing I did was for a U.S. company that I started, Euro Pacific Energy, that is drilling for oil in North Dakota, up in the Bakken. So that was one of the first major U.S. investments that I funded. But in general, I find most of the businesses I'm funding are abroad because I'm looking to get my money abroad to protect it from the destructive policies that are being pursued in Washington. If I can go to Washington and change those policies, then I would be able to recommend domestic investments. But right now I can't do that because it's too dangerous.
If the other governments are doing stimulus too, if the Germans and all around the world are doing the same thing, then why are we going to be relatively so much worse than?
Yeah, they're all making mistakes, but I think other countries will do the right thing before we do because the pain associated with it will not be quite as great. But also, if you understand the unique relationship that America has with the world, we are the hugest debtor. We owe more than all the other nations combined. We've developed this economy that is completely dependent on services and on borrowed money to a degree that no other country, no other major economy is. So we have dug ourselves into a deeper hole than anybody else, and I think we are going to suffer more as a result. And it is because the U.S. dollar was the reserve currency. Had any other nation tried to do what we're doing, it would have been reined in far sooner. We were able to get away with it. I said earlier on, the world gave us a lot more rope. And we took advantage of that, and we are in the process of hanging ourselves. It's just a long rope. But, it's going to snap. Any other questions? I know I'm having a hard time talking so much.
You're also considering physical plants and factories in that decision too, right?
Yeah, one of the reasons that most of my investments are in actual things, businesses, real tangible assets, companies that own physical plant equipment, is because I want to own stuff. I recognize that inflation is being created all around the world, and inflation is a transfer of wealth from creditors to debtors, from owners of paper to owners of real things. And so I want to be on the receiving end of that transfer. But I recognize that in the realignment that's coming of global living standards, that the U.S. is going to go down and the world's going to go up. And so I want my wealth here, not here. I want to benefit from that transfer of purchasing power. And I also know for all the mistakes that are being made around the world, there are countries that are making fewer mistakes than we are. And so that's where I'm going to go. And at some point, if we can right the wrongs of the past and we can get this country on a trajectory for real economic growth, where we stop vilifying and attacking capital and entrepreneurs, where we reward them and extol them and recognize the contributions that they make to the society, and if we can reform our tax code and reform the Federal Reserve, get back on track, America could be the emerging market of the future. It could be one of the best investment opportunities. And I'd like to help transform this country to that vision of the future, as opposed to the alternate vision that exists today, which is one of complete economic stagnation and the loss of individual liberties and rights, and a society of ever impoverished, unemployed people looking for one government solution after another, and not understanding that the more the government tries to solve our problems, the worse they make them. Anyway, I think that's probably enough. It was at 8 o'clock. Anyway, thanks for having me here.